We're going to do activity 3.5, applied statistics. So let's scroll down and look what our activity is. Part of the manufacturing quality control testing for a toy is to measure the depth, and the data collected is right here. What I'm going to use is a snipping tool to grab that data. And the reason I'm doing is grab this data and do Control-C, copy it, and go to Excel, get a new blank sheet, and I'm just going to come over here around cell C and hit Control-V to paste. And the reason I'm doing that way I don't have to go back and forth. So I write part NO period for part number. Then I'm going to do depth, and it's in centimeters. And if you double click between the selectors, it'll automatically resize, and we'll use that a lot going forward. So let's type in our data. 4.1, and instead of going back and forth, without the separators, it would have been easy to grab that. Because the comma's in there, it makes it a little harder to grab the data straight away. But I find it easier for me to just go ahead and type it in by looking at the snippet. But you can choose, if you don't want to use the screen capturing tool, you can go ahead and do it another method. Just get your data in there. So we got 4.34, we got 4.2, 4, and 3.8. And now let's check to see if we got all 12. So I'm going to do £, which is shift and 3, and then number 1. So now it tells me it's number 1, so I'm just going to drag here, drag straight down. I do have 12 pieces of data, and let's say I want that centered. And I can come over here, and all this data, all the ones with 0.0 got changed, so I'm going to have to increase the indent to go 2 and then back to 1, and now we're ready to go. So I can delete this data because I don't need it anymore. Let's take advantage of some of the tools in Excel. So highlight this data, come over to Format Styles, and format the table, and I'm going to use this one. And I want to make sure it says my table has headers. And then I'll come back over here and double click between a separator, and now it resizes automatically for me. Now, next thing I want to do is go back to curriculum, see what I need. So it wants the 3 central tendencies, mean, median, mode. I'll start with them, and the range. So now we're going to go back to Excel, and we'll type in equals mean, median, mode, and range. So equals ME. Oh, it doesn't come up with mean. That's because in Excel, average is the way you do it. So double click on that, highlight the data you want the average for, and close parentheses. Technically, you don't have to close parentheses, but it's a good habit. So let's type in median, double click, highlight your data, close parentheses, press enter. Let's equal mode, MOD. Now there's several choices here. We're going to pick single, highlight the data, close parentheses, and we hit equal, type in range. There is no range, so I'm going to have to use some other tools. Max is going to be the function that gives me the largest number in a data set of range. So hit close parentheses, and minus the min, which is the smallest of the data set. Close my parentheses. So I have those values. Next thing I want to do is go back to curriculum and see what they want. Well, they're wanting my individual x's minus my average or mean. So let's go back to Excel, and if I click right up there, I can paste that. Now it turns into a nice little heading, and that is equal to this individual x minus this mean. But I want the mean to always be used, and that cell value is B15. So if I hit F4 or put dollar signs in front of it, the column and row will remain constant, and that's what I want. I hit enter, and because I chose to do it with this format style over here, it automatically pulls those functions down. Now I can go ahead and let's do this to 3 decimal places. And let's go back to the film, and it wants this value, which is what we just calculated, but it wants it squared. So I want to copy that, go back to Excel, click up at the top, and paste it. And it's hard to tell that that's superscripted, so I can go ahead and do a Shift 6, which is going to put my caret in there. And now all I'm going to do is hit equal to make it a formula. This cell, Shift 6 for the caret, and 2, and that's going to square all my data. So all that data, and we've got a lot of values out there, and I'm not sure that we really want to go ahead and have that many decimal places, so let's knock that down to 3 also. So we're going to decrease them to 3. So we have those values. Now I'm going to come down here and I got to figure out my standard deviation. So standard deviation, I'm going to just abbreviate that. And we're going to double click to get that a little wider. Now standard deviation is the sum of this. So I can also use auto sum, and it's going to calculate the sum of all these values. Or I could type in equal sum and done it that way also. And the standard deviation is that value, the square root of that value divided by n. So what I'm going to do is type in equals SQ, all their square root. I want the square root of this value divided by 12. And there I get this value. I'm going to take that and decrease the decimal places. And I get 0.16. And that's going to kind of give us our decimal range. Now if I go, if you want to see, make sure it rounded it properly, that's 1.5. So that probably should, it's not rounding it properly, so that should be 1.7. So we'll have to go in and fix on that. So there's my standard deviation. Now I want to go ahead and make my histogram. So my histogram, I need bins, or places to put in those columns. So my bin, I'm going to start out with, well, my lower numbers, 3.8 and 3.9. And now what I can do is highlight those two and drag down till I get 4.4, looks about right. So there's my bin range. Next thing I'm going to do is go to data and do data analysis. If you do not have that here, you're going to have to go to File, Options, Add-ins, and let it kind of get caught up with you. You want this Analysis Toolpack, so you hit Go and make sure Analysis Toolpack is selected. Mine already is, so that's why I have the check mark there. You'll have to check that and then click OK. So I'm going to go to Data Analysis, Histogram, and my input range. If I click right here, I can then go over and highlight my input, which is my depths. And then I can go hit my bin range, which is going to be right here. And you also can hit enter and it'll go back to that dialog box. My output range, where do I want to put it? I'm going to put my histogram data right there. And I do want a chart, and that's the purpose. So make sure you have that selected. Click OK. And there's all my data. So I'm going to bring the chart up. I'll make it a little larger so I can see things. First thing, I don't want that frequency, so I can delete that. And then let's change this from histogram to depth of connector. And instead of bin, I'm going to change that to depth, and that's in centimeters. Now this looks a little weird for me, so let's double click on that, and we'll come over here. And I don't want to go up by half, so I want to go up by 1. And I don't want to go up to 4 because the most I have is 3. So type in 3 and then click out of it, and you'll see the change. X out of this. Now the next thing I want to do is click on these, right click, and come down to Format Data Series. Let's get rid of that grid width and put them right close together. See, that's not quite close enough. I want to take it all the way down to 0. I want to hit X, and that is my depth connector data all set up nice and neat. And next thing you do is we need to answer your conclusion questions. So what you can do is drag across here And let's go down one more possibly. It looks a little better. And I'm going to hit Merge Center. And then you're going to come up here and type number 1. And then you type your answer. Then if you hold down the Alt key and enter, it'll go down to the next line and you hit number 2. Whoops. Let me go back up here. Click number 2 and then type in your answer for that. Then once you're done, I want you to place your name right here, your first, then your last, and then go File, Save, and you're going to save it where you normally save things. Go to Documents. If it says where you're storing yours, I want 3.5, your first name, underscore last, and then save. And that's what you're going to turn in for this particular activity.